Good evening and welcome to the March 27th Oceanside Planning Commission meeting. If I could get everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice Chair Morrissey, would you lead us?
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, City Planner, please.
Chairman Rosales.
Present.
Vice Chair Morrissey.
Present.
Commissioner Balma.
Present.
Commissioner Custer. Here. Commissioner Dodds.
Present.
Commissioner Simons.
Here.
And Commissioner Malik.
Present.
I'll let the record show that all planning commissioners are present. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Moving on the agenda to communications not on the agenda for tonight. Do we have any slips to speak?
Chairman Rosales, yes, we have a slip from Joan Bachman, would like to discuss the Seaside neighborhood.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Joan. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, sorry, that was not my topic, that was my address, but my topic is El Corazon. So as you know, El Corazon is a park. Colton Sudbury told me to get T-shirts with that written on it so that we would all remember it. So right now, we have an opportunity to move the park forward. You have something coming before you in 2 weeks, and we really need to talk about that because 1.67 million cubic yards of dirt is going to move. This is a phenomenal amount, and we don't want to move it twice. So when you're focusing on the park, how do I get back to my, there we go. When you're talking about the park, usually it's just one little corner of the park. Down here. That's what's on your agenda. The park, as you can see, is much bigger than that. This is a map. We work with Palomar GIS students to do maps. I've done many maps with them. I know exactly how many palms are in Buena Vista Lagoon, thanks to them, and a number of other things. But you'll be talking about that corner. So from that corner, back in 2017, they started talking about how much dirt would move. We started bringing it up. We were talking about ball fields in Park 3 at that time. But now we really need to move this forward. And we really don't have a plan. We have these. These are blobs. They're not a plan. We're to pile up a bunch of dirt. So just for perspective, this is 100 acres over 10 feet deep. This is raising all 22 sports fields 16 feet in the air. This is raising the SoCal parking lot 65 feet in the air. That's how much dirt we're talking about. So we need to do the right thing and plan for this. So I want you to imagine the upper hotel site. These are all the projects, not the approved projects. This side up here. Raising that so that you could see it. Imagine walking up a helix to fantastic public views from San Jacinto to the ocean, which you can see today, but imagine at 30 feet higher. Imagine then spiraling down into a canyon with a sky window so you can see the stars at night without city lights. And then imagine that all the runoff from that goes into Park 6 to a series of cascading ponds that then go down into Garrison Creek. Those ponds are there right now. You can go see them right now. They're plastic-lined ponds, and they work through the rains. But Park 6 has a water element, and it would have that on there. As you recall, there's 9 parks on El Corazon. So this is very possible, but it's going to require some commitment from you. We really need to hold the city accountable for this. This hearing on April 10th is one of the last opportunities to get something done. After that, there's no money in it, no one will care, no one will talk about it. So please, when that comes up, think about everything that I talked to you, and I'm happy to talk to anyone after, later.
Thank you, Joan. Any more slips, or was that it?
That concludes our slips.
Great, thank you. And we'll go to approval of the minutes from our meeting on March 13th. Any discussion? If not, I'll look for a motion of approval.
I make the motion to approve.
Commissioner Malik made a motion for approval. Second, please.
Second.
And a Commissioner Custer second on those approval of the minutes. Let's go ahead and vote.
Chairman resolves that the records show that the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent calendar, we do not have anything itemized tonight, nor anything under transportation items, so we'll go to our public hearings. We have two items tonight. The first item, item 4, is consideration and recommendation of a conditional use permit for the Oceanside Smoke Shop. I will start with disclosures. Familiar with the site, drive by there quite often and read the staff report. Commissioner Dodds?
Read the staff report, very familiar with the area, and I was by there yesterday.
Thank you. Commissioner Balma?
Staff report and very familiar with the area.
Vice Chair Morrissey?
Staff report and familiar with the area.
Commissioner Simons?
Read the staff report, and I've been by the shop.
Commissioner Malik?
Read the staff report, been by the shop, familiar with the area.
And Commissioner Custer?
I read the report and know the area well.
Very good. Presenting tonight, staff is presenting. Go ahead. Sorry.
Good evening, Chair Rosales and members of the Planning Commission. Rob Demahowski with the Development Services Department here this evening to present the Oceanside Smoke Shop Tobacco and Drug Paraphernalia Establishment, a request for a conditional use permit and a waiver of locational requirements. And I'm here this evening on behalf of Dane Thompson, who was the project planner. The project site is located at 4170 Oceanside Boulevard in the Plaza Rancho de Oro Shopping Center, north of Oceanside Boulevard and west of College, within the Rancho de Oro Planned Commercial Zone. These photos show the physical location of the suite and the frontage as it currently appears. Oceanside Smoke Shop currently sells products such as cigarettes, cigars, and loose leaf tobacco, vaporizers and vape products, hookah and pipes and water pipes, and other smoking accessories. The site was originally approved as a cigar and cigarette store almost 20 years ago, but it was recently found that the business never received approval to sell tobacco and drug paraphernalia in a display area larger than a 2x4 or a 16 cubic square feet area as allowed by the municipal code. Selling tobacco and drug paraphernalia in a larger area is considered a regulated use per the zoning ordinance and requires a conditional use permit. The request before you tonight is intended to bring the existing smoke shop into compliance with city regulations. The existing smoke shop is approximately 1,300 square feet, commercial suite, and the applicant is not proposing any modifications to the shop. As shown on the floor plan, the shop includes a walk-in cigar humidor and secured display cases and shelving throughout the store. The store does not allow anyone under 21 years old to be on the premises, and the hours of operation are currently 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. The project has been reviewed and found to be in conformance with relevant city codes and policies. The project is consistent with the general plan as the business is compatible with the existing commercial land uses in the center. It complies with the Rancho de Oro Master Development Plan as the document allows smoke shops with the approval of a conditional use permit. And it is consistent with the municipal code as the city's code enforcement and business license divisions regularly inspect all tobacco retailers as part of the tobacco retail license. With that, staff finds that the project would be consistent with the findings for approval of a CUP and believes the use would not be detrimental to public health or safety. As provided in Article 36 of the zoning ordinance, all regulated uses must meet minimum separation requirements from other regulated uses, and sensitive uses such as schools, parks, or churches. For a drug and tobacco or tobacco and drug paraphernalia establishment, the requirement is 1,000 feet from another regulated use and 500 feet from residential districts or other sensitive uses. Since the project doesn't meet those locational requirements, the applicant is requesting the waiver. The City Council, with the Planning Commission's recommendation, may grant a waiver if the listed findings can be made, including not being contrary to the public interest, not impairing nearby property, and not encouraging the development of an adult entertainment area. As shown on the map, there is a massage establishment, which is considered regulated use directly adjacent to the site. There's an active business license for such use. Staff is not aware of any evidence that the two uses would be incompatible, as there is little overlap of the two uses' customer base. The site is also within 500 feet of a residential district to the north. That district is located behind the shopping center and has no direct access to this center. The shortest walking distance would be about 1,500 feet by sidewalk. For these reasons, staff believes that the project meets all the findings shown previously and that a waiver of locational requirements is warranted. Furthermore, staff consulted with the police department and found no records of calls for service directly related to this business or a business in the immediate vicinity. The applicant has complied with the city's enhanced notification policy and community outreach requirements. To fulfill this requirement, the applicant hosted a meet and greet on the project site on January 21st during 2 periods of the day. 15 comments were received at the meet and greet that were in support of the project. And during the process of the application, the project planner received 3 comments opposing the project, specifically related to the public health effects of smoking. In conclusion, staff recommends the Planning Commission confirm issuance of a Class 1 categorical exemption per the California Environmental Quality Act, Article 19, Section 15301, existing facilities, and adopt Planning Commission Resolution number 2023 P06, recommending City Council approval of a conditional use permit and a waiver of locational requirements for a proposed tobacco and drug paraphernalia establishment to be operated at 4170 Oceanside Boulevard, Suite 177C. This concludes my presentation. The applicant is in attendance this evening and has a presentation and will be available for questions as well.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions for staff? Thank you. Oh, hang on, Rob. Go ahead, Commissioner Simons.
So you said that during a routine inspection, they found that they had more shelf space allocated to drug paraphernalia than they were authorized, correct?
Commissioner Simons, that is correct. My understanding, there's a history of the difference between a tobacco retail establishment and a traditional smoke shop. So when the facility was originally approved, it was basically a cigarette store, and over the years it evolved, changed ownership as a smoke shop, which sells a variety of tobacco products. And then at some point, the establishment was selling paraphernalia. It was never enforced as a violation and was most likely assumed that it was a smoke shop and that it was permitted. So it wasn't until a recent license inspection, I believe, dating back last year, that the inspector looked up the history of the property and determined there was no conditional use permit for the paraphernalia, which is specific to, so if a display area is greater than 2 feet by 4 feet with a depth of 2 feet, that it requires the conditional use permit for the sale of specifically paraphernalia, which is different from tobacco products such as cigars or cigarettes, which are just considered a retail use. So if the store was not selling paraphernalia at all, it would be consistent with what it was originally approved for. So the applicant is specifically seeking the ability to sell the paraphernalia in addition to tobacco products.
So how much shelf space would you say in excess of 2x4 do they have dedicated to drug paraphernalia?
Mr. Simons, I would defer that question to the applicant. They would probably be able to provide you a specific answer. I do have the floor plan, but I would have to check if it's dimensioned with what would be the allowable under without requiring a use permit is 16 cubic feet. So to my knowledge, the inventory area, display area would be much greater than that.
Have you been in the shop?
Pardon?
Have you been in the shop?
I have not personally been in the shop.
Okay.
I have seen
I would
photographs.
say a sizable percentage of the shop is dedicated to drug paraphernalia. That's a fair assessment. We're not talking about a small excess amount in addition to 2x4. We're talking about the majority of the store is dedicated to that. So when was the inspection that took place where they found this?
The inspection occurred in 2022.
So since 2022, have they maintained that space, that shelf space in violation of the code?
I would also defer to the applicant. There has been, it is documented through code enforcement and the business license unit. I do not have the specifics on how that's being enforced or if there was a deferral on the sale of those products until a conditional use permit is obtained.
Okay,
The applicant can elaborate on the topic.
sounds good.
Good segue. Applicant, if you would like to come forward, and I don't know if you have a specific.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Custer.
So would it be customary for them to come and request permission to enlarge their paraphernalia area before doing so?
Commissioner Custard, that would be correct. In most cases, if let's say the store was selling only cigars and they would like to expand the inventory to sell their products, that would be the case. They would come in and apply for a conditional use permit for such use. This establishment has been in operation and has changed hands over the years. And as mentioned, the applicant maybe elaborate on the history of it to when they began operating the business and how the inventory. But it's most likely a case where many of these longtime stores have evolved in terms of the inventory, and the city may have not have always viewed the establishments as what would necessarily require be considered drug and tobacco paraphernalia versus just a smoke shop selling retail tobacco.
But it would fall on the shop to come in and request the permission when they were to enlarge it, correct?
Correct. And in this case, there is an annual inspection for the tobacco retail license on an annual basis. So that inspection has occurred every year, and it was not documented that there was a violation by the city as well. So that's something to note.
Thank you.
Commissioner Custer, if I may add on to that a little bit, the tobacco retail inspections are fairly new in our city, so perhaps that's why it may have gone many years without that being found to be in excess of what's allowed to be displayed. I believe the tobacco retail inspections have only been around a year, maybe two, so perhaps that could explain some of why the business operated so long without the city being aware of what they're actually selling and the display and the amount that they were displaying.
Okay, thank you.
Hang on, Rob, one more question. Commissioner Obama?
Thank you. As an architect, I'm always really inspired by, aesthetics and looking at things like that with the building. I just noticed on the inside shot you showed us of the inside of the facility was pretty clean and tight and very, very organized and very nicely done. But then I look at the outside and look at all the signs. Like every window square foot has got something going on. And I know we have a sign code, but possibly they don't have to follow it within a shopping center. Because right now, even the smoke shop sign is fairly large. I just wondered if there's any kind of sign code, or even why someone wants to clutter all their windows with everything that they sell inside the store. Is there a sign code that actually regulates that?
Commissioner Balma, there is a sign code that does in fact regulate the amount of window signage that can occupy a window. I do not recall the specific percentage, but there is a limitation on how many we consider as secondary signage, so advertisements and so on. With this business, it's considered a snapshot in time, and the business is obligated to comply with all current codes. And I believe the shopping center also has a comprehensive sign program that would regulate signage. So the operating condition approval could potentially, if there is more signage than allowed, we can definitely work with the applicant to make sure there's compliance there. And they could also elaborate on the current conditions of the shop. I'm not sure when this photograph was taken during the entitlement process.
Yeah. To me, it's always less is more, rather than have it, completely filled with signs. There you go, beautiful. But the inside's beautiful. It's anyway, whatever. Each his own.
Thanks, Rob. We'll bring you back if we have any other questions. Come forward, applicant. Please introduce yourself. It looks like you don't have a presentation, perhaps. Oh, you do. Go ahead.
Hello. Can you hear me? I
Yeah.
can just talk loud too.
No, please speak into the mic.
Okay. There we go. Good evening, council members. My name is Denise Martinez. I'm here on behalf of the Oceanside Smoke Shop, representing my client, Rafi, who is the current owner of this establishment.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you so much for your time this evening and your very thorough questions. Our experience working with Dane, who's not here tonight, has been just, as thorough, and we really appreciate it. As, my client is always, his interest is always, one, to run a tidy, clean business, and two, to make sure that he is in compliance with the city and the state regulations, which is why as soon as the inspection occurred last year and the client was asked to apply for the CUP, he got on it right away, and we've been working on it ever since. So we, our goal tonight is to, one, show face so you know who we are. I think it's always nice to put a face and a name to a business, especially one who's been around for so long and is such an integral part of the community. And two, answer any questions and any concerns that you may have. Already heard a few this evening, so I'd love to touch on those as well. So, just adding on to Rob's presentation, this business has been in the community for nearly 20 years, and I know you all mentioned that you're familiar with the neighborhood. I myself am from the south of San Diego, so I love coming up here as well and seeing this lovely community. This smoke shop, again, as Rob mentioned, does sell a variety of products, tobacco products, accessories, and paraphernalia to consume these tobacco products. So we are requesting this conditional use permit in order to comply with the regulations, in order to be able to sell the paraphernalia in a display larger than the 2x4x2 that is allowable. And I think it was Commissioner Simons who asked the question about how much of the store is in the display case, or how much of the store has display cases that has this paraphernalia. Great question. I regret that I did not include more photos in this presentation, but in our presentation and our application with Dane, we included many photos of the interior, which I really appreciate, Commissioner Bama, that you mentioned how clean it is. It is a very large shop. And in the other slide, there was the actual dimensions, but it's very large. And there are many display cases. And again, I regret that I don't have the exact number off the top of my head. But there are, Ruffin, you can confirm this, there's 3 4-foot display cases.
3 4 foot, yes.
That have the paraphernalia, and that is maybe like a quarter of the amount of product you sell.
I would say 20%.
So, about a quarter. So I'm not sure your definition, Commissioner Simons, of sizable, but it's not a majority by any means. I just wanted to clarify that. And yeah, so that's what we have so far. And as part of the application, which has been mentioned, I'm not sure if anyone had a chance to read it, we are open to, any suggestions that you might have. If you would like us to modify the amount, we are here to make sure that we are acting in the interest of the city and the public, of course. So that's just something that we're open to. Another very important part of this application process was to have a meet and greet. So on the 21st of January, we invited the community to come and ask any questions, get to know the smoke shop, of course, if they're old enough to enter. And in that meet and greet, we had forms for people to leave comments if they wish. 100% of the comments were positive, talking about, the service, the people, the product. So I just want to touch on the fact that there's a very high and positivity around the smoke shop. The people who do choose to consume tobacco have a good experience, and there have not been any negative comments from the public that have come to our attention about the store. I also wanted to touch on another part of the application where we, confirm that it is not the intent of this business to cause any harm to the public, and we only intend to provide compliance based on your ordinance, and we are, again, happy to take any feedback, anything into consideration, talk to you all about what you think would be appropriate. So if you have any questions, I know you do, please feel free to ask them. Again, Rafi and I are here to answer anything that you might have on mind. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Simons, do you want to follow up with your initial thought?
So do I understand you correctly? When you say 20%, are you saying 20% by revenue? By 20% of your revenue is generated through drug paraphernalia sales?
20% of the display cases, approximately, of the store have the paraphernalia in them.
So what about revenue-wise? About what percentage of your business is done through paraphernalia?
About 25% of our business.
Okay.
Like the earning from this product?
Yeah.
About 25%.
Yeah, 25% of your business. So two doors down from you is the karate place, right?
Correct.
So who primarily goes to the karate place? Like who's the general clientele that goes to that karate place? It's mostly kids.
Younger kids.
Yeah, it's kids. There's kids that go there for their karate
Correct.
lessons right next door. So that wasn't also mentioned in the presentation as far as something that should be considered too, is that there's a place two doors down where kids are going to all the time. I would also mention that particular shopping center, Oceanside Boulevard, has had encampments growing on the side of the hill, on the other side of Oceanside Boulevard. And so those folks are making their way into that particular shopping center. If anyone shops at the Albertsons, they know that. In fact, the Albertsons ran out of shopping carts because so many people had stolen the shopping carts. So there is that element also around that are probably not using those products to smoke tobacco. So I think that's something that we have to consider as well when we look at this. And then finally, you mentioned you want to have a compliant business, and how important that is to you. Then how did you operate 20 years outside of compliance with the drug paraphernalia clause inside of your own operating permit? So I'd like for you to address that maybe.
Sure, absolutely.
We bought the business in 2019, and it was the same way it is today from the previous owner, not knowing that we have to apply for, conditional use permit or any other permits other than, a tobacco license and a seller's permit and the City of Oceanside's permit to operate the smoke shop business. So it's not something that we added ourselves into the business. It was already existing. If we knew, we would, just like what we're doing right now. And we've been doing this business for almost 20 years, and I have never had any, issues with police or any, city members or anything like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if you were not granted the conditional use permit and forced to operate in accordance with the existing conditions, what impact would that have on your business?
It would hurt our business, just because, it's a big part of the business, the earning, basically. And, I'm not complaining, but, we have employees, we're 3 partners, and, it takes, some money to get the business going. And since we applied for the CUP, we were not purchasing any of the product. We're just basically selling out as much as we can, just so we can, narrow it down as much as possible.
Okay, that brings up a good point. That was my other question was, since the inspectors came, like what was the situation? Inspectors came, said, hey, you're operating this, you don't have this, you can't do this without a conditional use permit, but yet they allowed you to continue to operate while it was still in process?
That's what we understood, that we're able to sell, what we have until the city makes the decision, as far as what the display area would be. And that's what we did.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Commissioner Custer, go ahead.
Well, if we were to deny this tonight, it would only mean you have to decrease your display area.
Correct.
You can still keep it behind the counter and sell whatever, you have available, correct?
Correct. The items are quite large, and it takes space to display them. We're not greedy or anything. It's just that it's really hard to display it with the 2x4 area. That means we would only display like 2 or 3 items. For the display area, it's all the way in the back of the store. So if you are on the outside of the store, there's no way that you could see this product from the outside of the store, unless if you go in and go all the way towards the back of the store before you get to see any of the product. So it's kind of hidden in a way, and that's how it's been since we got the store.
Okay, and how do you make sure no one under 21 comes in?
We check IDs for every single person that comes in. Yes, even if they look 40, 45, we still check their IDs.
They're coming in.
As they're coming in.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Yes, no problem.
Commissioner Obama?
Going back to the signs, and with the other commissioner brought up the kids, so you're pretty much all the advertisement on the outside of the store is pretty much telling them all the different products you sell. So maybe possibly, that's kind of like an advertisement. I mean, as far as the kids are concerned, they're seeing all this great stuff, and they're going to go, oh, I might get some koi or some vapes or whatever. You've got a lot of stuff going on here. It's like too much to read, but maybe along with, trying to reduce the amount of square footage, you could also get rid of some of the signage that's just kind of advertising to the kids that what you have in here. It sounds like you've got a pretty good clientele. They're coming in here. They know what they want, so you don't need to throw out every product you have on the window.
I totally agree with you on that. And now looking at the picture, I see it, and I will work on that right away. No problem.
Good job.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions, but hold that idea. We'll call you up if we have any more. One more, sorry. Commissioner Malik?
Thank you. You bought the business in 2019. It's been there for about 19 years. How many owners how many times has this changed hands in terms of ownership?
I believe 4 times.
Okay.
Yes. It used to be cigarette cheaper, and then sold, and then it was cigarettes for less, I believe, and Oceanside Smoke Shop, and I bought it as Oceanside Smoke Shop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a public hearing, so we're going to go to any slips that we have and/or the audience for any feedback. You can go ahead and sit down. We'll call you back up if we need you.
Thank you.
Chairman Rosales, we do not have any slips for this item this evening.
Great, thank you. That doesn't mean if you're sitting in the audience that you can't come forward and speak to this item before I close it. Don't see anybody rushing forward, so we will close the public hearing and bring it back to this body for any additional questions, comments, or motion. I'll start with what I heard from the applicant just a minute ago, which kind of solidified my position, and that is 2 things, really. A willingness to relook at the signage on the windows, but more importantly, the fact that most of the displays and the materials are in the back of the store, and they make a concerted effort to look at IDs as clients come in. So again, if you've got, and you make a good point, Commissioner Simons, got kids right down using the karate space. If they're walking by, I imagine by the description of the client, they're not seeing the hookahs and some of the other paraphernalia. It's out of sight. So that gives me a sense of confidence that it's not attracting the sort of clients, younger clients that we don't want to see going into these shops. And then with the rethink of the signage on the windows, as the applicant indicated, I think that will diminish the eye-appealing look of it even more. So I was glad to hear that. That being said, go ahead, Commissioner Simons.
I've been in there, nobody checked my ID. I didn't see them checking any IDs. That could have been just that moment. Also, those display cases that you see right through the door there do have the paraphernalia in it. It's not exclusively limited to the back of the store. The hookahs are all along the wall on the left-hand side. You can see them straight from as you're walking on the sidewalk. So I disagree with your characterization of where the paraphernalia is placed and the visibility of that. And I only mention that now because you say that like solidified your position. I wasn't going to say anything about it. I was just going to let it go. But that is, in fact, I believe the situation to be on the ground. I think somebody else on the panel here said that they had been in the store. I mean, you can share your opinion of what you've seen when you've gone in there.
But to that point, thanks for raising that. I think there's an interest to the applicant if, based on what you described and what I'm hearing otherwise, and I didn't visit the store, that if consideration could be made, if we approve this, to move those displays out of sight of the door if you're walking by and truly put everything in the back. Again, it would make me comfortable, and I can't speak for the other commissioners, but it certainly would go a long way to making sure that we're not attracting folks that we don't want to be attracted to that space. Commissioner Dodds, go ahead.
I was in the store yesterday. My suggestion would be for your employees to be more diligent in checking ID. I know I don't look 18. I'm sure I look a lot older than 18. But the concern as far as the karate school that's close, those that are closer to 18, if the practice is that they're only sometimes checking IDs, or maybe I think you need to have them be more diligent. When I went in the store, it's very classy. This store has been here for years, and there's never been complaints. My issue would be compliance, not necessarily what you have there and what may entice the younger generation, but it's compliance. So in the I agree. I think that it would be better if you moved those paraphernalia towards the back, so it's not as visible from the door or from windows. Signage is also another thing. It's just kind of minimize that. I like the saying is less is more. But for me, it's more compliance than anything else. And having your employees being diligent in checking IDs.
Thank you, Commissioner Dodds. Would you like to put that into a motion? Hold that thought, Commissioner Custer. Go ahead.
I agree with you. Compliance is the issue. And if this is denied tonight, then they simply can modify the business and bring it back to the commission, correct? After they've brought it under current compliance, then they can bring it back and apply again for a CUP, correct?
Commissioner Custer, tonight the Planning Commission is simply making a recommendation to the City Council whether City Council should approve or deny this request. If this body were to make a recommendation to deny the request, they still have the ability to move forward to City Council with a recommendation from this body of denial. If the City Council denied that, then they would simply have to reduce the amount of area in which they're displaying the paraphernalia, and they would not have to come back to anybody for that, because that could be sold at any retail store in the city per the municipal code.
So to enlarge it, they'd have to come back, but to come under compliance, they can do that immediately.
Yes, ma'am, without having to come back with any sort of discretionary approval.
Okay.
Request for discretionary approval.
So it's compliance for me, and my concern is we have two people that have been in the store, and neither of you were carded, from my understanding. So that's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Custer. I'm ready for a motion if somebody would like to make one. Commissioner Dodds, you kind of started this current dialogue, so go ahead.
I would recommend confirm the issuance of a Class 1 categorical exemption per California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, Article 19, Section 15301B, existing facility, and the adopting Planning Commission Resolution Number 2023-P06, recommending City Council approve a conditional use permit, CUP 22-00007, and a waiver of location requirements for proposed tobacco and drug paraphernalia establishment at 4170 Oceanside Boulevard, Suite 177C. Oh, with the conditions of reduced signage on the windows and moving the drug paraphernalia to the back.
And checking IDs. What about checking IDs?
I don't know if we can regulate
Hang on, sir.
I don't know, can we regulate as far as how their SOPs, as far as how they operate in as far as their diligence in carding people who walk in?
I imagine we can request it, that they, like you said, are diligent about it. I don't know if we can mandate it. But I'll ask that question, and maybe city planner. That seems a little bit outside the boundaries of what we can do.
So Chair Rosales, members of the Planning Commission, there's a couple things at play here. I believe there's some state regulations that require mandate checking of age to make sure that someone's eligible to purchase tobacco products and paraphernalia. It's also regulated by the municipal code. So adding this other layer of addition is sort of redundant, that they check to make sure the person purchasing the products are of legal age.
Okay, so essentially those mandates, those obligations are already in place. So if I'll make a suggestion, if you want to modify it, that they follow the existing mandates and city code, that should cover everything.
Then we would make the suggestion that they would follow the existing codes as far as ensuring legal age of entry.
Great, thank you. We have a motion on the floor to approve the CUP with the conditions for moving the displays to another location out of sight, to diminish the signage on the windows, and that the applicant follow very clearly the existing state and city codes and regulations on verifying the age of customers coming into the store. Commissioner Simons, before I ask for a second, go ahead.
Yeah, if we're going to add a provision to diminish the signage, it has to be, I think, something that's a little bit more quantifiable. Like, we can't just say diminish. Yeah, you have to be more specific if the motion were to pass.
Hang on, one at a time. City Planner, do you want to jump in on this discussion?
Sure, Chairman Rosales and members of the Planning Commission. So the city's sign ordinance does regulate the percentage of the window that can be covered in signs. I believe it's either 20 or 25%. So it's already in place. So if you wanted to add that the signage, window signage, be in compliance with the existing city sign ordinance, that'd probably be appropriate. Right. So it's quantifiable that way.
Right.
Go ahead.
Then we'll recommend that that you maintain compliance of percentage of signage within on your windows, on your display windows.
Very good. I'll repeat the motion, and just so we're clear what we're acting on. The motion is to approve the CUP with certain conditions. 1, moving displays out of sight. 2, diminishing the signage on the window to be in adherence to city code. I think I heard 20% of the window space. And then lastly, to follow state and city regulations on age limitations clients coming into the business. I think that captured everything. So
I'll second.
We have a motion on the floor, and we have a second by Commissioner Malik. Let's go ahead and vote.
Chair resolves, let the record show that the motion passes 5-2 with Commissioners Simon and Custer voting no.
Thank you. And again, this is a recommendation that it goes, move forward to the City Council for their consideration. Thank you, applicant. We'll go then to the next item on the agenda. Item 5 is consideration of a tentative parcel map and development plan and regular coastal permit for development at 1743 South Tremont Street. The applicant is the Lightfoot Planning Group. Disclosures, I used to live nearby the area, so I've been by many times and drove by recently in light of this development. And then we have the staff report. Commissioner Dodds, your disclosures?
Read the staff report. I'm familiar with the area, and I did drive by recently.
Thank you. Commissioner Obama?
I did the same.
Vice Chair Morrissey?
And I did the same.
Commissioner Simons?
Same.
Malik?
I did the same, and I live in the neighborhood, so I'm very familiar with it.
And Commissioner Custer?
Did the same.
Great, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners and Chair. I'm Katie Fan with the Planning Division, and I'm here to present Agenda Number 5, Development Plan D22-00012. The applicant is requesting a tentative parcel map, development plan, and regular coastal permit for the construction of 2 3-story condominium buildings on a property developed with an existing single-family residence for a total of 4 condominium units at 1743 South Tremont Street. The site is located in the South Oceanside planning area and the non-appealable jurisdiction of the local coastal program. The project site is designated coastal residential high density by the city's general plan and medium density residential R3 by the city's zoning ordinance. The site is bordered by a mix of single family and multifamily residences in all directions. The proposed project includes 4 market rate condominiums. The 4 4-bedroom units would range in size from 2,121 to 2,209 square feet, with private open space areas provided in the form of patios and roof decks. The project conforms to the on-site parking requirements by providing a two-car garage per unit for a total of 8 covered parking spaces located off the alleyways. The project would enhance its surroundings through building siding, landscaping, and quality architectural design. The 2 3-story proposed buildings are compatible in scale with existing development within the immediate vicinity of the neighborhood. The 2 buildings are a modern design that complements the existing architecture in the coastal zone. As detailed in the staff report, staff has evaluated the project and finds it consistent with the general plan, zoning ordinances, and local coastal program. The project's proposed density is consistent with the surrounding multifamily residential land use designation. The incorporation of modern architectural style would integrate the project into the surrounding neighborhood and improve the existing site by providing updated housing and landscaping. The project complies with the development standards of R3 zoning district. There will be no impact to public coastal access and no removal of parking. Therefore, staff recommends the Planning Commission confirm issuance of Class 32 categorical exemption per the California Environmental Quality Act, Article 19, Section 15332, infill development projects, and approve tentative parcel map, development plan, and regular coastal permit by adoption of the Planning Commission Resolution Number 2023 P08 with associated findings and conditions of approval. To date, the city has received 2 emails from the public, which have been printed out and distributed to the chair and the commissioners. The correspondence included comments regarding the staff report, specifically climate action plan compliance and housing element compliance. Additional email correspondence requested information on transportation compliance within the alleyway. This concludes my presentation. We are available for any questions that the Planning Commission may have. The applicant is also here and has a presentation that they would like to provide to the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Malik?
Yeah, I had a quick question. Could you repeat, please, what you said about the alleyway?
Right. The one of the correspondents requests information on the alleyway and transportation compliance. Specifically, they requested information on stop signs within the alleyway. I spoke with the transportation reviewer, and the request to install stop signs is not associated with this application. However, senior staff has been notified within the transportation department of the request, as well as I responded to the correspondence on different ways to request stop signs within the alleyway.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I understand the applicant's here and has a planned presentation, so please come forward and introduce yourself. And
good evening, Commissioners and Chair. My name is Kelly Canister with the Lightfoot Planning Group, representing the 1743 South Fremont Street project. We had prepared a very brief presentation, but I think staff's covered the project benefits to the city in their presentation in a very thorough staff report. I'm happy to go through it, but it's really just the floor plans and the site plans. I do want to point out that I know you've seen a lot of density bonus projects lately. This is not one of them. This project does meet all existing zoning codes of the city. So we thank the staff for their efforts, and we support their recommendation to approve this project. If you do have any questions, I'm available along with the project applicant and the architect. Thank you very much.
thank you. Any questions for the applicant before you go? Commissioner Obama.
Just a curiosity question.
Yes.
What do you think the price range for these condominiums would sell for?
We talked about that a little bit. It's a little hard to say right now. It's, with the market fluctuation, I don't have the range.
Don't have a range? Just
Really do. It's
like,
yeah.
you don't have to be.
It's just hard to say with the way market is. It'll be whatever market rate.
I mean, they're 4 bedrooms. They've got the roof deck. They're nicely elevated. I just was wondering what you
They're
think
nice size.
that they would sell for. No,
I don't.
Okay. You must know because you're going to. How much does the square footage cost as far as construction goes? In we can figure it out for you.
I could ask the applicant.
Okay. All right.
Commissioner Malik, go ahead.
On the exterior, the materials, I'm just looking at the second story cladding. Just kind of curious what that is. Living in the neighborhood, seeing some newer construction, seeing it not age well near the ocean. It becomes kind of it ages prematurely in many cases where it has to be redone or resurfaced, or something has to be done to that because it's just the nature of where that area is. And I was just curious I didn't see it in there, it may have been in there. What actually was that material, and what's the life cycle on that, if you have any idea?
Are you looking at the wood material or the metal?
Yeah, the brown wood. I'm assuming that the white is a stucco. And personal
Stucco and
preference,
stone.
unfortunately, you're using the fake block on the front, but that's your prerogative. But the upper cladding, I'm curious, is that a metal? Is that a wood product? Composite? Okay, great. Thank you. Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions. It's a public hearing, so do we have any slips to speak on this item?
Chairman Rosales, we do not have any slips on this
Don't have
item.
any slips, doesn't mean you can't come forward. Before I close the public hearing, you're welcome to address this. Okay, we'll close, Commissioner, well, I'll close the public hearing, and then I'll swing over to Commissioner Malik. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess on the aspect of stop signs, I'm not sure if we requested that be included with this. Just from a public safety perspective, I understand the concern with the alleyway traffic and having that be included in the application. I'm not sure if that's the proper means to do this, but just to ensure that there were stop signs that go for the alley exits would, in my opinion, probably increase the level of public safety associated with this. Understanding that there is another process, but that's actually someone from within the community who is requesting that. So it's an interested third party or fourth party that's doing so, but it's not incumbent upon the applicant and the builder to ensure that is done.
Fair comment. City Planner?
Commissioner Malik, members of the Planning Commission, typically when a stop sign is installed, it typically meets a warrant for the volume of traffic to warrant a stop sign being there. This project did go through the full public review process. It went through the entitlement review process. One of those reviewers is the engineering, transportation engineering division. They didn't find that a warrant for a stop sign is necessary. In addition, I'm not sure what the regular practice is of adding stop sign and traffic control within alleys. That's something I would have to defer to our experts in the Transportation Engineering Division of Public Works. As Ms. Fan mentioned, there is a different avenue by which they can pursue that, and certainly that's something that the Transportation Engineering Division could look at again. So I'm not sure if this is the correct place to do it without the data in front of us, but certainly there is a means by which this can be further explored, and I think Ms. Fan shared that with the commenter.
Okay, I don't see my screen here lit up for any other questions, so I'll entertain a motion if, yeah, go ahead.
The height restriction is, I believe, 33 or 35 feet, and the stairwell is at 41.5 for the roof access. Was that just within a waiverable allowance, and that's what you guys are recommending?
So, Commissioner Malik, as outlined in the staff report, Section 3018 of the zoning ordinance allows for exceptions to the height limitation, a stairwell being one of them.
Okay.
It can go up to a maximum of 10 feet above the base zoning
Gotcha.
standard. They're only going a little bit over 5 feet, so it's within that allowable range for that portion of the structure.
Great, thank you.
While you have your mic ready, would you like to make a motion?
Absolutely. Let me find the cover page.
Yeah, take your time.
I got it. Thanks. I make the motion that staff confirm issuance of a categorical exception per CEQA guidelines, Article 19, Section 15332, infill development projects, and approve tentative parcel map P22-00001, development plan D22-00012, and regular coastal permit RC22-00012 by adopting Planning Commission Resolution Number 2023-P08 with findings and conditions of approval attached herein.
Great, thank you. We have a motion on the floor. A second, please.
A second.
And a second by Commissioner Dodds. Let's go ahead and vote.
Let the record show that the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, and good luck, applicant, on your project. That concludes our public hearing items for tonight. That leaves us with appeal of city planner's determination on the agenda. I don't see anything listed. and nothing under discussion items. So we'll go to city planner and commissioner reports. I don't really have anything to report or any questions this evening, so if I think of something, I'll come back to it. But otherwise, Vice Chair Morrissey?
I went to the first Downtown Advisory Committee. My first one, I guess, was a couple of weeks ago, and there was a 901 Pierway. It's a property right at the top of the hill of Pierway, and there's 64 units there. It had the, it was included for low income, or so they didn't have to do certain considerations, and it's 64 units that was approved. And I know one of the things that I do remember is that they didn't have to bury the utilities, and there was some discussion with that. And there was some discussion about how much really the city has given up in the way of benefits to a development when they have this, low-income inclusion. So anyway, there's a discussion there. And then the other thing which was interesting, right in front of the pier, when you walk there, you know that there's a couple of stop signs there. And what happens is that one of the members brought up that in the summertime, people never stop, and and so that traffic kind of log jams right there. And so there was this discussion about, well, is there a way that we could corral the people to not be in that street so that the people, the flow of traffic could happen, and discussions where it was going to be looked into. But that is a concern. When I went and looked at it, I can see how that works, because even right now in the wintertime, people just walk in the middle of the street. It's just, there's just no crowd control. So in the summertime, I'm sure it's much worse.
Probably access that much less now that is there, just because of that pedestrian.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then finally, so I'm up for reappointment. So if I'm not here, I just want to let you all know it's been a pleasure serving with you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
I'm up for reappointment also, but we have one more meeting.
Yes, there's always one meeting
April
after
10th.
appointments, whether or not you get on. So we'll see you one more time at least.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, don't say goodbye yet.
right. I'll say goodbye then.
Commissioner Custer, since your mic is on, you
Well,
want
that was all I had.
That's
to
all you
say,
had,
to
okay.
add that little comment.
Thank you.
Commissioner Balma.
Well, I was just wondering what happened after. I know last meeting we talked a little bit about Brother Benno's and what was been going on and the letters we've been receiving. We got another letter from the property manager, again, this time elaborating on the fact that they're having a lot of problems with their water, what do you call it, their irrigation systems, their water supply to these units, to the electricals. They're getting broken into, SDG&E's having to be called out. There's going to be I guess they get the clients of Brother Benno's or whoever are kind of getting upset when the landlords are trying to not let them go into the water, into the electrical, and so they're breaking them just to kind of probably just retaliate. So that was just another thing that came up again. So I don't think these things are going to get reported to the police. These are just things that the landlords have to deal with. So, I know that the police are going to give us a report. I think that's one of the things you were going to try to help us with. But what about all those things that drop through the cracks? Like all of the things that were in that letter were things that weren't going to be reported to the police. That's just something you have to go out and fix.
So Commissioner Balma, those emails were also copied to the police department, so they're aware of the concerns being expressed by the property owners and business community in the industrial park. We'll ask them to come back and report to us after they've had the opportunity to work with Brother Benno's for that 30-day period. So we're probably looking sometime in May for PD to come back and maybe discuss this item as a discussion item.
Yeah, I think we need to bring it back and just at least show the property owners that we want to listen to them And we know that Brother Benno's is a valuable service to the city. We don't want to lose them either. So it's like somehow we have to kind of kumbaya here. But it's, it's not working out for, probably either one of them. They probably both have problems. So anyway, I just, I'm just wanting to make sure it's still on our agenda that we want to talk about this.
What I didn't get, if I could follow up, Sergio, from the email chains, was a sense of timing, and if that's being expressed, conveyed to the property owners down there. So I think you just said May that we'd see something. Is that message also getting to that group?
Chairman Rosales and members of the Planning Commission, I'm not sure what messages are being conveyed back to that group. Is that something that I'd have to discuss with management to see how it's being addressed? Again, we're given the opportunity for the police to continue to work with Benno's, and so we can report back if there's any changes based on the changes Benno's is committed to making with their program and the services they provide. As we expressed last week, it was expressed to us that not necessarily the troublemakers, the problem, the troubled children are not necessarily clients of Brother Benno's, but they're folks that just typically hang around the area. So again, this is the city has a lot of resources invested in helping address the homelessness issues. This is not falling through the cracks or going unaddressed.
Great.
What you kind of alluded to, though, was that I noticed that Tom and I both responded to Barbara in a nice way and just said, we're hopefully going to continue looking into this. But we didn't see anybody from the city that has actually authority in this. We're the Planning Commission. So I just was wondering, who, even yourself could say that we're starting to, the police reports, we're looking at May, like you just told us May. Maybe just something like that to tell them that there's some direction coming, that there's going to be a voice that's going to be heard.
Planning commissioners will make sure that a response gets sent out to those property owners and business communities so they know we're not ignoring them.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Can I get back to Commissioner Custer real quick? Let me run through. Oh, you're lit up here.
Oh, I didn't mean to be lit up. Okay, I don't know.
Commissioner Dodds.
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Simons.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe talk a little bit about what Joan was bringing up earlier as we do this El Corazon thing. I think I was watching a city council meeting where it was super contentious. So we know that this is going to be a huge deal when it came in. And I think the issue when I was watching the city council meeting was that the developers essentially got it for free, right? They're moving so much dirt that it cost them so much money that they ended up getting the property for free. It was something like that. I was watching the city council meeting for something else. And that happened to be there, and I tuned in, and I was like, wow, okay. So it was really contentious. The issue was the parks, right? There was a bunch of folks that came to the city council meeting that felt like they got, they're not getting the park, they're getting the development is coming in first. And once the development comes in, there's never gonna be a park. So that was the issue, and I believe that the city council at the time said, well, don't worry because this is all going in front of the Planning Commission. So that set us up for a nice meeting when this goes down. So not knowing the history of this, right, because it goes back years, right? Like you guys are tuned into this. Some of us newer folks are not. I was wondering if when we do the staff report, or maybe there could be a briefing separate that could bring us all up onto the same page of the history of what's been going on, how we got to where we are, and then the full development plan for all of El Corazon before we address the individual project, whichever it comes up, whatever's next.
So Commissioner Simons, if I understand you correctly, you would like for planning staff to set up a briefing with each planning commissioner to kind of bring them up to speed on the history of El Corazon, what projects have been approved there, what this project entails, and what the rest of the El Corazon specific plan entails?
Yeah, that would be nice, yeah. Do you have to do those individually?
They would have to be done in
together,
groups
right?
of less than 4 at most.
Okay.
If we were available to meet in groups of 3 or 4, we could do that.
Three is the max, yeah.
Okay.
Could we do that could we agendize that under the discussion items, just as a review of the projects? I mean, could it fit in here so that we're all here and the public too could gain kind of a refresh of the entire plan?
That could be done if timing would allow. Right now, that project's scheduled to come forward to this body at its next regularly scheduled meeting on April 10th. So we could schedule those smaller groups between now and then.
Okay.
There's, just so everyone has the background that, as you mentioned, Chair Rosales or Commissioner Simons, that there's a lot of history with that project, and I'm not familiar with it. None of the current staff is familiar with the entire history of it, but we do have an administrative record. We do know which projects have been approved. We do know that there's a specific plan. We do know that the project coming before you would be consistent with that specific plan, or we wouldn't be bringing it forward to you. I believe what Ms. Bachman was getting at today is that with the volume of material needing to be moved off the site of the OBC, she doesn't want to see it and maybe she's speaking for the Friends of El Corazon, doesn't want to see it just stockpiled in one location and having to move it again. What they're getting at is that they would like a park design, what to do with that material and how to best contour the land with that material so it would eventually be the type of park that the specific plan envisions. Right now, there isn't any funding to create that design, but there is an agreement within the purchase and sale agreement, is my understanding, of how that material is to be handled. So we can in our briefings, we can maybe discuss some of those specifics with you. I'm not intimately familiar with them, so I have to come up to speed myself. And me and the project planner, Shannon Batali, could probably give you the overview that you're seeking, Commissioner Simons.
If I could if we have to meet in small groups like that, if I can make a recommendation that at least the three of you, maybe the four of you or five have been here much longer, that have the background, so that there's somebody that has a little bit of history in one of those groups to be able to both help us as commissioners, but also give the background to the staff that may not have been here that long. So it kind of creates a more holistic perspective of what's going on, understanding the history. I think it's a great point that you bring up, and thanks for bringing that up, because that was one of my issues of how do we move forward with that. It's a big issue that we're going to have to come before us in the next meeting, and we want to do our due diligence for the community.
So when's the meeting? The next meeting is?
It would be April 10th.
So could we just maybe pick a day and have, if there's, maybe 2 back-to-back meetings if there's more than 3, and so it makes it easier on you.
Certainly.
But I've been around, and that, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And what's been out there, and 1.6 million cubic yards is a lot of dirt. Yeah. So I don't understand. I know there's a lot of that dirt up there is not stable, and that's probably why a lot of it is, because, it was a mine, and it's just, the dregs are left over. So maybe if you could pick a date and let us know, and back to back.
So as early as tomorrow, I can have the project planner start coordinating those meetings, probably for the following week, the week before the scheduled hearing. And maybe that might work
Earlier
best
in
for
the week
everyone.
would be better. I have to travel midweek, but yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'll have the project planner reach out to all the individual planning commissioners to gauge their availability on the week we're discussing, the first week of April, the first full week of April, if that works for everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was good.
Commissioner Malik, I don't think I got to you for your report. Go ahead.
I've got nothing else. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Simons brought it up.
So Sergio, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman Rosales and members of the Planning Commission. So for upcoming Planning Commission items, at the meeting on April 10th, they'll be considering a small residential development known as the Bush Street Apartments, consisting of 3 apartment units on Bush Street here, a vacant lot on Bush Street. The Modera Melrose project, which is a mixed-use project consisting of 323 units, inclusive of 33 units reserved for very low-income households, and about 3,000 square feet of commercial space, and that's located at Melrose and the southeast corner of Melrose and Bobier Drive, smart growth opportunity area. And then finally, the Oceanside Boulevard commercial project at El Corazon will be in front of this body. Moving out to the meeting of April 24th, the Popeyes down in the south end of town is still scheduled to move forward at that time. That may also be a prime opportunity for us to provide the discussion item on parking that Commissioner Malik requested at the last hearing, and then also we can bring to you the PC work program. I looked into the PC work program to bring it at this meeting, didn't realize that it was actually the last time this body considered that work program, it was for 2 fiscal years. So we're still under a current work program, and so we envisioned the next work program being for also 2 fiscal years, so for 23, 24, 24, 25.
Okay.
Moving on to City Council, back on last Wednesday on March 22nd, the council approved a regulated use permit for everything wine and spirits that this body considered back in January. And then moving forward, that same project that Commissioner or Vice Chair Morrissey brought up, the 901 Peerview Way, will be scheduled to go to the City Council for final approval. And also on that date, we'll be taking the annual progress report to HCD on our progress toward meeting our RENA obligation. We'll be filing that with the City Council. That concludes my the information I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the agenda, so we're adjourned.